24 червня. Раз. Включіть мікрофон мені, будь ласка. Раз. 24. Раз. 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 Медіаторів. Слово вам. Пане Дмитре, прошу.
Добрий ранок.
Давайте секундочку візьмемо, вирішимо ці.
Як зараз?
Прямо по этому поводу, блин, надо собраться.
Та-да. колеги.
Цієї події. Був прийнятий. І вже сам законопроект навчання 18 українських медіаторів тими тренерами, які отримали кваліфікацію за міжнародними стандартами мови. Про це більш детально розкажуть
relationships after the war. Right now, there are no strikes possible, no industrial action is possible. Once the martial law is gone, all of that will be possible, and you're going to get a lot more conflicts. We're going to keep monitoring all of that. We already monitor the developments in employment relationships. So for starters, till the end of this year, we would like to have like 100 labor mediators or so. Let's see if we're gonna get there. Then you double the number of mediators that have been trained against international standards in the REC in Torino. The National Conciliation Service, if the draft becomes a law, will keep the register of mediators. So in the website of the service, you're going to be able to get more updates on the availability of qualified labor mediators in each region of the country. So the parties of the conflict will be able to reach out to those mediators and get their professional service. That's the way it's done in Europe and across the world. That's a much better way. It allows you to handle the conflict faster and cheaper. I told you about the global trend in this. So we'll see how the situation will unfold. We're not going to stop the process no matter what. And each of the mediators that attended the REC is supposed to share the knowledge with fellow colleagues. Each of them should deliver a few training sessions for free for domestic mediators. And this would allow everybody else willing to make a labor mediator to do that. And they would learn under the best internationally recognized methodologies recognized by ILO in particular. Let me tell you this, right now we're not after numbers actually. Right now we're trying to build a mediation culture, and in this regard I think it is important to highlight the role of a government institution and the mediator community we work with very tightly. I'm speaking of the National Conciliation and Mediation Service, Mediation Academy, and National Association of Mediators of Ukraine. It is also important that we create the ecosystem of labor mediation, and we're going to try and keep nurturing this culture further to help the country overcome the challenges. We need to make sure that refugees come back home, and we hope they're going to be able to do it someday. There's a need to restructure the economy and maybe companies. We got to do things in the occupied areas. So all of that will be emotionally charged, and there are certain conflicts coming up inside these processes even today, and there's going to be a need for effective, high-quality labor mediation. That's why we're here today. That's why we
Пане
keep
Катерино,
on
у мене до вас
collaborating.
запитання. Поділіться, будь ласка,
Kateryna, let
інформацією
me check with
щодо
you. Could you
курсу
give us any
професійного
updates
спілки
on the
медіаторів, як це відбувалося,
course
до
from
речі,
the
до цього?
Professional Alliance of Mediators? Tell us more about that.
Особисті технічні проблеми, але я сподіваюся, вони не завадять розмові.
Hello.
І скажу, що
Maybe I'm not in the best shape today, but still, we've had some technical glitches earlier today, but still we're speaking about important things. I appreciate the ongoing collaboration. The National Association of Mediators was established in 2014. We worked a lot with the American service, Ukrainian service. We considered labor law. We co-drafted the occupational standard for a mediator. So initially, all of this experience was pulled together and the course became possible. I'd like to say big thanks to the REC, ILO, National Conciliation Service and fellow mediators. They shared their experience and made the course better. And that's a unique opportunity for international community, so we can adapt things to the Ukraine context. It's been quite an inspiring effort, quite a fulfilling effort. Thanks to facilitators and trainings, they supported Ukrainians personally, and it's not just like getting trained, you would get a human touch throughout the training as well. The group of 18 mediators, internationally certified, is not the first group of certified mediators in this country, but to me, it is important to see that these guys have reached a certain level of qualification. They are a part of the professional community, and that's the whole idea behind it. So we need to keep supporting ILO and the service in evolving the system. I don't know how many mediators will be needed, but mediation should be accessible, affordable. There is definitely a need for that. We need to spread the word around. Everybody should know about the service out there because many companies will need it, including the staff of the civil service. So we gotta try and make sure that access to mediation be there everywhere. Since 2020, under COVID, we have we have been able to do things online, but now we have to think of conflict-oriented, conflict-sensitive, trauma-sensitive practices. So we're interested in having some labor mediators on the spot. And that's going to help us prevent a lot of conflicts, both collective and individual. Because sometimes it starts with a little thing, then it becomes a bigger thing if nothing is done. So you gotta get the human touch, you gotta think of the particular context, and that allows you to relieve the current tension in society. You don't need to wait for a law to get passed or for the war to end. We gotta try and do some things right now, and that's what we're on, and that inspires a lot. I could speak about this at length, but I'm looking at the time, so maybe there are some questions. We might be getting some questions later. I'd like to have it from Irene Deorsola. We have heard earlier today that a hands-on module happened in Kateryna, so we're gonna learn more about that.
Технічну команду прошу вивести на екран. So, Mrs. Irene, hi. I have a question for you. Could you please tell us about the practical model, what took place in Turin? Місіс Ірен не з нами. Добре, можливо, місіс Луїза з нами?
How about Miss Luiza? Okay.
Oh, okay. Mrs. Luiza, hello. So please share your plans about the course offered by Ukrainian Academy of Mediation.
Чи можу я українською відповідати? Я все зрозуміла. Чи чути
Okay.
мене?
Got it. Can you hear me?
Добре, місіс Луїза, розкажіть, будь ласка, про плани
Okay.
та інформацію щодо
So tell us
курсу від
more about the
Української
plans
академії
and
медіації.
any updates about the course from the Ukrainian Mediation Academy. Thank you. I'm happy to join the call, and I'm gonna try and give you updates on this course. It has happened, and the team of professionals are ready, and we're ready to replicate this. I represent the Ukrainian Mediation Academy. We are an NGO established in 2014. Just as Kateryna from the National Association of Mediators, we took part in
роботи, мабуть, ідеї цього курсу.
floating the idea of this course because we are partners with the National Mediation and Conciliation
Перш
Service.
за все хочу дійсно подякувати за таку можливість.
I
ви
really
також сказали,
appreciate
що
this
плани
opportunity, and
дуже потужні. Вже
the plans are really
все до кінця
powerful.
року разом
We have
індивідуальна
everything
асоціація
scheduled
медіаторів
till the end of the year.
Національної служби
We do
примирення та
jointly with the
правосуддя.
Association
Буде
and Conciliation
певні плани
Service.
пов'язані з підготовкою
Certain
методичних
plans
рекомендацій,
envision the drafting
певні
of
плани
methodologic
пов'язані з
recommendations.
розробкою, проведенням
Other plans
методичних
envision
полігонів.
drafting and providing training
Хочу
sessions.
сказати насправді, що важливим є той фокус, який наданий. Пані Катерина вже казала про те, що
Kateryna earlier suggested that there is flexibility, so the focus is placed on Ukraine context. And now we're not just speaking about collective disputes. The training allowed you to train experts that are going to be trainers in future addressing individual labor disputes.
Вже зараз ми впроваджуємо отримані знання, бо
So nowadays we're applying the knowledge we have gained. We've got mediation offices in courtrooms. We have other entry points to mediation where we can offer the service for free to people. We see there is a need to handle individual labor disputes. So I'm happy to see that today we can offer mediation services and we fully understand the international standards behind it when it comes to addressing disputes like that. So these are the plans. So we need to bring this knowledge to people. We need to replicate this effort. We have to share this knowledge with fellow mediators, allowing them to get specialized training in this sector. So this is extremely important. We've got a lot of veterans coming back, and we've got a lot of programs related to their employment inside the country. This may lead to various disputes here and there. It's a matter of adaptation to workplace sometimes. So mediation can really help there. It can help find a consensus, to be heard out, and it is something that matters a lot to each participant in the employment relations. Thank you. Let's see if Irene is back on the call online. Irene, are you with us?
Пані Ірена. На жаль, поки що
Paging
нема, можливо, трошки пізніше
Irene,
вона до
but
нас
maybe
приєднається.
she's not with us right now.
Поки що,
Maybe she's
пані
gonna
Ірино,
be there
хочу
later.
запитати вас про ваші
In the
враження
meantime, let me check
від
back with
цього курсу.
Alona. So,
Я
what do
знаю,
you
що ваша
think about the course?
організація
I
вже
know that
якийсь час
your
займається
agency
вирішенням трудових спорів.
has
Тож,
been taking care
що
of
дав вам цей курс і
labor
як він
disputes for quite a
підвищив
while. So,
ваші
tell us what
знання
was the
і
benefit from
взагалі
this course to you in
рівень
terms of
свого роботи.
augmenting your knowledge, making you a better professional?
Все добре, так? Прекрасно. Якщо немає еха, то все добре. Вітаю, колеги. Я представляю організацію, яка називається Інститут
Hello,
миру і
I
порозуміння,
represent the Institute of Peace and
організація і Академії медіації, і
Coherence and
медіаторів України.
the National
Ми з
Association of Mediators
2002
and
року, насправді,
Conciliation
дуже
Service
довго
have been working with us since
займається
2002.
впровадженням
We
медіації
as an
та
organization
діалогу
promote
в
mediation and
Україні,
dialogue
і
in this
ми
country.
якби за те, щоб допомогти людям порозумітися,
So our
в
idea is
ситуації,
to
коли є
help
конфлікт,
people
або коли треба
understand
прийняти
each other
рішення.
in a conflict or whenever there is a need to make a decision.
Організація, в якій я працюю, займається не тільки
My
медіацією,
organization
так
does
само
not
як
only
і
mediation
мої
and
колеги з
labor
інших
disputes,
громадських
just
організацій, а
as
загалом
fellow colleagues from other
це
NGOs.
медіація або фасилітацію, або
By doing mediation,
допомога
facilitation,
ситуації,
we help people in certain situations where there are
Я
conflicts.
зараз скажу таку річ, яка, можливо, десь трошки не про трудову медіацію з одного
What I'm going to say might not be so much about labor mediation, but that's a critically important thing.
людей. А медіація – це процес не тільки вирішення спору,
Mediation is not
трудового,
just about getting a handle on the collective labor dispute or some other dispute. Effectively, we help the people to learn to handle conflicts differently. They need to understand themselves better, what their real interests are in a particular conflict. They need to find a way to meet these interests whenever resources are limited. So it's a totally different approach. And people that
У
undergo
нас
mediation,
набувають того потенціалу бути активними,
they find a way to become
проактивними
active,
членами
even
суспільства.
proactive
І взагалі
as members
подібні
of
практики
society,
вони
and
сприяють тому, що
certain
називається
practices like that
зміцнюють соціальну тканину. Є такий
strengthen this
красивий вираз.
social
Це про
fabric.
те, що дуже тяжко поміряти, але це
It
те,
is
що ми
something that is
відразу
so hard to
бачимо, коли
measure, but it is
потрапляємо в
something that you can
суспільства
see
чи в
right away
громади,
if you end
де
up
є
inside a
взаємна
community
підтримка,
where there is
довіра,
mutual support and trust.
там виручка і так далі. Да? Коли не
Everybody
одна
helps each
людина
other
діє,
out.
а люди
So
якби
people are
взаємно
not about to
підтримують
turn
один одного.
on each other, but in fact,
На
they
моє
try and
глибоке
help each other
переконання,
out.
ми ще, скажімо так, стоїмо і боремося саме завдяки тому, що у нас в нашому суспільстві є якраз оця стійкість,
In our society,
підтримка.
there is this kind of thing, resilience,
Саме
mutual
тому я,
assistance and
як
support.
там, я не знаю, тисячі, мабуть, моїх колег вже в Україні, докладаємо зусилля до того, щоб люди
So many
дізнавалися,
of the
що
fellow colleagues in this country are
порозуміння
trying
і
to
цю
make
соціальну
sure that
тканину
people get
можна
the point.
підтримувати
This
і треба
understanding and
підтримувати
social
саме в такий
fabric
спосіб.
has to be supported
Саме тому
this
я
way.
обома руками і обома ногами за те, щоб медіація і в трудових, колективних, і в
So
трудових спорах
mediation should happen
розвивалася
whenever
і
there is a collective or
просувалася
individual
якраз
dispute.
в цю
It is
сферу
something that should begin in
нашої
momentum
життєдіяльності,
in this sector
оскільки
right
і
now.
зараз вже намічається великий конфліктний потенціал,
There's a
тобто є
big
закладені бомби
number
і
of potential conflicts
уповільнені
coming up.
дії
There are
саме в цій сфері.
certain
І
time bombs in
ми
the sector
однозначно
that
і
will
чітко
explode
можемо
over time.
очікувати великий сплеск
We may
саме
also expect
конфліктності
to see an upsurge in
завершенню
conflicts once the war is
воєнного стану,
over,
бойових дій,
once the martial law
саме
is
через
over.
те, що будуть зняті обмеження певні, так, з
The
одного
limits,
боку,
certain
з
limits are
іншого
going to be
боку,
gone.
якраз сфера інвестицій, я вірю щиро, дуже розшириться, да, через
And I
те, що
think there's
будуть
going to be more investments.
розвиватися, пов'язане з відновленням, да, якраз
The
цієї сфери.
recovery
І
will
відповідно плюс
start happening.
необхідність інтегруватися в
And there's
Європейський
going to be a need
Союз,
to integrate with the EU.
адаптувати законодавство і так далі. Тому
There's going to be a need to adapt the
дуже великий
legislation
запит,
accordingly. So
великий.
there's
Але
going to
для
be
мене
a
фокус
growing
цього
demand for mediation and
збереження
all
і
that.
роботи на соціальну тканину
But we have
є
to keep
насправді
working towards
критично
improving the
важливим.
social
І
fabric.
те,
To
що я
me,
хочу
that's of
сказати про
paramount
курс,
importance. And
це
speaking of the
власне
course
такий
itself,
вдалий і витриманий баланс між
there has been a good
технічним
balance there
захопленням,
between the
тобто як
technical
треба все
part of the
робити за
training,
правилами,
like
і якраз
how
оцім
to do
фокусом
things
на
by rules. And on the
людяність,
other hand, you
на
would get the
довіру,
human
на
touch,
те, що
the trust.
не можна потрогати руками, але дуже
It is
відчувається,
something
коли
you
треба
cannot touch with your
забезпечити
hands,
безпеку.
but you can feel
Дякую
it if
дуже. Я
it's
щиро
there.
сподіваюся, що пані Ірена ще до
So
нас
thank you very much,
приєднається,
and I
бо
hope
вже
Irene
має
is on this call.
Поки що,
So
на жаль,
let's
немає,
see.
але ми не втрачаємо надії. Поки
She's
що
not
у нас
there right
є
now, but
можливість
let's see.
почути інші відгуки учасників курсу. У
In the
нас є вони
meanwhile,
в
we
залі.
might be
Якщо
getting the
хоче
feedback
хтось
from
поділитися
other
своїми
participants in the
враженнями,
course.
своїми думками, коментарями щодо цього
Let's
курсу,
see
будь
if you
ласка,
guys
підніміть
would like
руку,
to
ми
tell
вам
us something
передамо
about that.
мікрофон,
Just
можете
raise your
сказати
hand,
пару слів.
and you're going to get the
Якщо
mic
хто
to tell
готовий,
your part of the story.
хотілося би почути декілька слів безпосередньо від учасників. Так, на першому ряду є пані в червоному. Пані в червоному. Можете сидячи.
Доброго дня.
Якщо зручно, встаньте.
Так, мабуть, що так. Доброго дня, колеги, партнери. Перш за все, дякуємо за таку можливість і НСПП.
Hello, colleagues and partners. Thanks to the ILO and the Conciliation Service and everybody else involved in the project.
Стратегічне значення
It is
і
of
для
strategic
України, і, на
importance
мій
to the
погляд,
country and
всього
I
світу,
think
тому що
to the
Україна
entire
сьогодні
world.
вона має такий геополітичний вплив, і
This country
наші
today
люди,
has got a lot of
наші проекти,
geopolitical
вони
importance,
виходять
and
далеко за
our
межі
people,
нашої
our
географії.
projects go well beyond our
Якщо ми говоримо про
geography.
медіацію, то як явище, примирення, так, порозуміння
If you
між
think of
людьми
mediation,
безпосередньо стосовно, воно
it's
йде
about
своїм
getting
корінням
people to
дуже
get
глибоку
along with each
історію,
other,
ще
and
давним. Але якщо ми говоримо про
it's been
таку
practiced since
структурну
ancient
роботу,
times in the world.
про
But if you think of a
процес
structured
налагоджений,
effort,
який має
the
свої
process
принципи,
behind it,
свої підходи,
it is something that is based on
по суті, все,
principles
що
and
ми знаємо, так?
practices,
Він коли
everything
почав
we can think of.
формуватись.
So that particular thing started to take shape after the World War II. So at that point in the world, there was a global demand for handling conflicts. There was a need to know how the conflicts happen, what starts them, and how can you handle them? How can you keep them down at least? The World War II developments have become an impetus towards the development of mediation and conflictology all in all. What is going on in this country and the world today is the second most important impetus towards the progress of mediation, conflict management, bargaining in society. Previously, it used to be something happening at the national political level. Then all of that went down to the business level, and now all of these practices are going to be enjoyed by people. So we have come full circle. So we've got it happening everywhere at the level of the government, corporate level, and then at society level, where certain people get the benefits from mediation.
Стрибнути на цьому трампліні, так, тому що сьогоднішні події нас до цього стимулюють.
And what is going on in this country today gives us a reason to keep doing this, and we accept the challenge. We can contribute to this cause using our skills, energy, and knowledge just to try and get a handle on the ill effects of today's developments in this country. The course that we have been able to take was a course on labor mediation, and we can see that in this country there is a basis, there are existing mediators and competent people, there is an understanding and willingness, so we can see certain progress. If we compare what it was like 20 years ago, we can see that a tremendous progress has been made. There has been a great deal of international support and assistance. We always have something to learn from each other, and then we can integrate it quite successfully. And also, I would like to say that all of the mediators and everybody else interested in this should stick together, making each other stronger, better. And projects like this is an opportunity to do it. We can get together and learn, and we can augment our knowledge and experience, and we can create then better opportunities for new mediators in terms of working with trade unions, personnel. The mediation culture should go beyond the competencies of mediators themselves. And that's our task, challenge, and mission. Thank you. Anybody else willing to make a point? I've got a question. I'm Irina Petrova. I run the Mediation Center in the Notary Chamber of Ukraine. So I represent the notary communities. Notaries are also an active part of mediation progress in this country. Pretty much every day we work with citizens in this country, and we can see a lot of conflicts happening here and there in society. So we believe that mediation is not just a professional skill, it is a need that you get out there today. So the notaries are in favor of spreading the mediation on. So I appreciate the invitation to this event. It's an important one, and it's about the future. So here's my question. I've heard you guys say that there is an idea to make sure there are labor mediators across the country. But what are the other ways of promoting labor mediation across the society? People need to know that whenever a conflict arises, there is an alternative solution to that, possibly. So are there any ways and mechanisms of that kind? Let me tell you why am I coming up with this question. As a notary, I can tell you that I have been trained to do mediation back in 2018, and ever since, everybody that comes around to our office can hear certain things about mediation from me. So people see that apart from the court of law, there are alternative solutions. And at least people get an idea that something like this is out there. So I think mediation is something that should be taken care of in advance. It should work towards preventing conflicts. Once the conflict has erupted, it is hard for people to make a decision to take a mediation session as a better alternative, perhaps. So, what are the other ways, if any? What are the other ideas about promoting labor mediation as a way of handling labor disputes? Let me start answering, and Dmitry will add something. The National Conciliation Service will have a register of mediators, and you will see in which regions each mediator works. Some might work inside companies, and that's a good idea. The mediation law allows you to have in-house mediators in companies. There's going to be a pool of mediators based on the list of the Conciliation Service that have been trained by ILO against ILO standards. The law on resolving collective disputes, the draft law, allows to engage external mediators, outside mediators. The parties might actually choose somebody they trust. That's also the way. And that's a good professional collaboration that has led to this draft law. Changing the culture, making people aware, that's our common cause. It's about changing the attitude to the word conflict. Right now, this word is a trigger. They call a war a conflict, they call whatever a conflict. So it's hard to recognize that I'm in a conflict because we're kind of sturdy and we keep moving on. That's what it takes today. But a conflict is something that allows us to evolve. We see something fails in the system, and then there is an opportunity to make the system better. So a conflict is at the same time a chance. It is a way allowing us to improve our doings, our life. We can use the mass media for that and whatnot, and then the demand for mediation will be growing. If you think of building a certain professional attitude to this, well, there are some conflicts that exist among people, and there have always been some. So mediation is a set of rules and principles and the professional activity over the last 30 years that the mediation is evolving in this country. We spoke about that. Very often we represent somebody, we give advice to our friends, we offer professional advice to clients, customers. Mediation is something that helps nurture the clients. It allows them to feel their own capacities to take care of themselves, to make a deal with somebody else, to think of the future and calculate it in some way. And you can be done, and it can be done with the help of somebody who is a professional. It does not add to the conflict. It is somebody that allows you to take a different angle on the conflict and see what are the potential bits of benefits that you can gain from that. So there are some certified mediators out there today, and I think they're going to be doing that in the sector of labor mediation. And if you think of it more broadly, we not only take care of mediation in the labor sector, at work, we spend a lot of time of our life. Work is something that you gotta have, but also it's a kind of stress sometimes. So we bring some stuff from work back home to our families and so on. So in some organizations in other countries, there are social programs for employees and there are mediation programs, not necessarily labor mediation. So people get it for free, so they can address various issues they might have that get in the way in their life. It allows these employees to do a better job when they come to work because they don't have to think of those problems all the time. So that's a bit of a perspective of what we're going to have to do in future.
От відповідаючи на питання про трудову медіацію.
I'd like to go back to labor mediation. So right now there's a draft law okayed by the committees, and it will soon be put to vote in the first reading. And if it goes through the first reading, then it's going to be improved for the second reading. Should it be adopted, we really hope it's going to happen, then we're going to work with the MPs, explaining to them why we need that. And then the website of the service will carry a register of labor mediators. The first 18 that have been trained are going to be there right away. Towards the end of the year, I guess we're going to get more labor mediations with a certain specialty. I guess it's going to be more than 18. It's going to be 36 or even more. And the idea is to do the cascade training program where there's going to be like a TOT process going on. And that's how we're going to be able to build a community, and conflicting parties of labor disputes will be able to get in touch with these people. We, as the National Mediation and Conciliation Service, that's a unique name for a government agency. So we appreciate this responsibility, and we're going to try and develop mediation inside company's personnel. We are responsible for that. There's an existing code of labor laws, and it envisions certain things. There's Article 221 prime, which says that there is a possibility to apply mediation in case of individual labor disputes. And we keep it in the back of our minds. Together with mediator organizations and National Mediator Association and the Academy, we're going to be able to keep moving on. So right now there is an existing draft law. There are 18 certified mediators to handle these types of disputes. We've got a methodology shared with us by the REC. We are adapting it for Ukraine. Each of the trainers is supposed to produce at least one case, one exercise that will be used to train fellow mediators in this country in future. As Luiza said, we are intending to start a training session with a pilot group later on this year. I think 20 to 25 people will be able to take the course as a group. At the end of the year, if the law is going to be passed, we're going to get the register, we're going to get the trained experts, and I hope we're going to be ready for the challenges that are coming up over time once certain limits are gone related to the martial law, and it's going to be possible to organize strikes and industrial action. You mentioned the word community, and I really like it. The National Association of Mediators will be a professional scene where exchange of practices will be possible. We will do intervision, supervision. We will check with each other for the sake of improving the mediation quality. The mediators on the register will keep on learning. We will keep in touch with each other. We'll keep honing our skills, augmenting our experience, tailoring it to the developments in the country. So this professional community will be there as well. Okay, let's have a few more comments. I'm Olga Titun. I represent the happy mediators that have completed the course. I'm a managing partner of the Commercial Mediation Group. We have been around for 10 years in the market.
все-таки вас запросити цієї програми і сказати з точки зору медіатора, який професійно цим займається, і тренера, який
I am a
професійно
professional mediator and a
навчається.
trainer.
Це було
I do the
надзвичайно
training of
якісно
mediators, and I can tell you that
організоване
it's
навчання.
been a
Нам було
well-organized,
дуже приємно,
well-prepared
напевно, я скажу
training
нам,
course.
не
And
тільки від себе, що ми, як українські медіатори, не мали
we,
можливості
as
підтвердити
domestic
свої
mediators, have been
кваліфікації
able
перед
to
міжнародними тренерами.
prove
Це
our
було достатньо складно.
qualification vis-a-vis
Проте
international
наразі ми
trainers. It
маємо
was not
дійсно
easy, but
цікаву
now
методологію, з якою
we've
я
got an interest in
найближче
methodology at
безпосередньо
hand.
познайомилася, яку будемо
To me,
застосовувати
it's been quite a
при
discovery, and
навчанні
we can
медіаторів
apply
в
that in
Україні.
training
Я думаю,
fellow
що
mediators in the
це буде
country.
класний поштовх
I think it's been a
підсилювати
good
плюс
impetus
наше
that we
підґрунтя
got out of this,
професійне, яке ми маємо. І я
and
думаю, що ці курси, які ми
we can
будемо
apply our
проводити,
professional
будуть
practices.
мати
So the
попит,
courses
і
we're
будуть
gonna
робити
offer will
якісних
be in demand, and
медіаторів,
they
які
will lead
зможуть
to having
справитися
more quality
після
mediators
цього тут в
capable of
країні,
doing
як
a
ми
good
всі
job
говоримо.
making the
Дуже
social
дякую
fabric
за можливість.
stronger. So
Дякую
thank
дуже,
you for
пане
this
Володимире.
opportunity. Okay, thank you, sir. Now you.
Личун, віце-президент громадської ліги Україна.
I'm a vice president of the
попередніх питань щодо профілактики
NGO
попередження
called the League.
займаюся військовою адаптацією ще з Афганістана, голубі каски з
My
Боснії.
job is military adaptation since
Після
Afghanistan,
афганського
or
легкі
blue
наркотики,
hard
надзвичайно
helms.
потужна соціальна підтримка.
After
Це
Afghanistan, there was a lot of
максимум
drug
допомагаючи
use,
повністю
but
всю
nowadays vacuum
судинну
bombs are
систему. Питання таке.
destroying a lot of things.
Профілактика.
So I'd like to raise a point about prevention. The war will be over someday, and
військові замовлення.
there's going to be a growing number of military jobs. There will be a lot of tech companies coming up.
Високотехнологічної робочої сили.
A lot of high-tech hands will be in the market. Guys will come back from the war
об'єктах військових,
where
тобто
they work
військова
at
еліта,
high-tech military
високотехнологічна.
installations.
Куди вона дінеться, та еліта?
Where will they be
Я
going?
думаю, що медіація – це дуже класно, але
Mediation is a class of
медіації
thing,
– це, я думаю, на сьогоднішній день набагато більше.
but
Дякую.
prevention is even
Це
better than
питання
that.
за адресою, тому
I'm not sure
прошу.
that this question is relevant here.
Якщо дуже коротко, то медіація можлива і між
Well,
державою
briefly,
з
mediation is
іншими
possible
групами
between the
людей.
government
Це
and
не
other
зовсім
groups
трудова
of
медіація,
people.
але
Maybe it's not going to be the labor mediation, but it's still possible.
додати більше про діалогові
Maybe
формати,
somebody else
політичного діалогу.
will tell us about
Коли є
a
питання в
dialogue as a
суспільстві,
way of doing it.
соціальних
If there's an
конфліктів,
issue in
то
society,
і
and
треба
that's
її
where the
розглядати.
social fabric is thinner, and that's where it should be strengthened. That's also a possibility. Serhii.
Я, власне, буквально декілька дякую, по-перше, за питання. Воно
Well,
насправді
thank you
з
for your
одного боку,
point.
ніби як не стосується трудової
It
медіації.
doesn't seem to be
А з
relevant
іншого
to
боку,
labor
можливості
mediation, but
діалогу,
still you
тобто,
speak about a potential
відносин
challenge.
трудової сфери, да, звільнення,
It's
там,
about
безробіття
dismissal or
і тому подібне.
unemployment,
Тому,
joblessness, and so on. So it is relevant at the end of the
Я
day.
не можу на 100% з вами погодитися із
I do not quite agree with you. I mean, I cannot definitely say that things will go on the way you have just suggested.
Сценарій може бути або
In my understanding, a scenario may be something like that or completely different if militarization keeps going on after the end of the war. It's going to continue on in terms of developing the high-tech sector, military sector. To help countries about that, and I think that's going to be the way. I don't know which way it's going to go in reality, but one scenario may be coupled to another in a balanced way. None of these scenarios rules out conflicts, labor disputes, or other disputes across society. And that's where we're going to have to speak about something else, not necessarily mediation, but maybe we're going to have to speak about other ways of coming to terms, keeping the resilience going. We can speak about a dialogue, but a dialogue is also a structured process done by a team of professionals. And the idea is to involve groups of people that have a mandate to take part in this process. They are legitimate to be a part of it. They determine which issues have to be addressed in the closed format or open format, and all of that can be discussed through dialogue. It's not the same as talk show or dialogue of the two or Socrates type of dialogue. It's not about that. It's a structured decision making or conflict resolution process. That's also an idea, and we think about it as we try to lay foundations in various sectors, including the labor sector. All of that will contribute to the social fabric that will
Пане Сергію.
help us keep our heads above the water.
Один із сценаріїв, які ви сказали, можливо, він має
Well, one of the scenarios that you have spoken about is Gaius Reza and Detra.
Я не думаю, що високотехнологічні сфери прийдуть в занепад навіть після закінчення
I don't think high-tech sector will be dilapidated after the end of the war because
діяльність з високою доданою вартістю
it's a high added value kind of operation and it may
дохід.
produce quite a sizable income.
Буде в тому, що військовий, який повертається з передової,
The service members coming back home
всіма структурними, так би мовити, прогалинами
will face all of the structural gaps in the labor market in this country.
Військовий, який був на передовій, отримував, можна
These
сказати,
guys
непорівняно високу заробітну плату.
enjoy the high pay while
Йому будуть
being a service member, and
мінімальна заробітна плата.
when they come back, they're gonna see an offer with minimum pay, or they will be partly paid informally. In this country, there's a big portion of undeclared work, either completely undeclared or partly undeclared. So some of these guys might have a heightened sense of justice because they put their lives on the line and their health, and they would want to have a certain attitude to themselves, and to them it's going to be something really hard to handle. That reality will certainly hurt their feelings. So we're going to need to try and make sure that we remove the existing gaps in the labor market in this country. We need to cut down on undeclared work. We need to help increase labor productivity, which would help people enjoy a better income. Yesterday, we've had an interesting meeting with employers.
На основі зібраних даних, на основі опитувань, підказав, що дуже багато воїнів.
And one of the colleagues suggested that many of the service members coming back from the war are not going to be going back to the same companies where they worked before. 40% of them would try and start their own businesses. Some will choose to get self-employed. Others would think of employing other people. And in that case, there's going to be a certain area of employment relations. There are new entrepreneurs out there. They start up their own businesses. They hire workers. But they never had employment relations before. And very often, these guys are just unaware of how to do things right, how to manage these relationships in the right way, how to communicate with employees, and so on. So now we're discussing ways of supporting the idea to develop a handbook for new entrepreneurs, allowing them to see the basics of the labor law and how to abide by that in this country. Wherever you get employment relationships, you get various interests of employees and employers, and it's always like that. So that itself is the difference in interests. Workers want to get paid more, they want to enjoy better work conditions. Employers say there is a need to increase productivity of work. Maybe at the expense of paying slightly less to the workers. And that's where the dialogue can happen.
Якраз я відповідаю на ваше запитання. Ми підтримуємо
So answering your question, I can say this. We are in favor of the social dialogue between employers, employees, and we also believe that at some point the government should pitch in. There should be a regulatory framework in place, and the respective institutions have to do their job. And also you get collective bargaining mechanism where parties can come to terms and they can apply the existing labor law to a particular workplace by making collective agreements. So it's a comprehensive issue, and there's no one-size-fits-all kind of solution here.
Додам, пан Сергій нас наших мене сказати ось ще про що, про перспективи співпраці з НСПП, зокрема.
I'd like to speak about the outlook of cooperation with the Conciliation Service. Mediation is not done by mediators only. Mediation allows you to engage other parties if the conflicting parties do not mind. You can seek assistance from outside experts in economy or law, whatever is needed. Sometimes they need to check with the shrinks, so it is possible to draw on somebody else on the side, some outside expert who can contribute to the ongoing discussion or problem solving. And while training mediators in future, there will be some from the Conciliation Service, and these guys are not going to be mediators, but they will be able to contribute to the mediation by providing their extra information and service. And that's what it takes. That's how the parties will be able to get more assistance in a particular conflict setting. We're happy to welcome Irene on the call, and let's go back to the training course in the REC in Torino. So Irene, hello and welcome. Please tell us more about the module you have had in Torino.
Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you for the invitation and for organizing this very interesting event. I'm sorry for my slight delay. That was due to some previous commitments and some unforeseen circumstances. So about the course, I'm very happy to join this event because it also somehow represents a bit the atmosphere that was there during the course. So the course that we organized was a train the trainers, we TOT as we call it, on mediation of labor disputes. During the course, that was basically divided into 3 different phases. What we call the technical phase, in which we tried to even a bit the knowledge, even the skills in the main areas of expertise of mediation, so that participants can actually start from the same point of view. We aim to deepen and to reflect upon the key technical areas related to conciliation and mediation. The second phase that was conducted in a hybrid modality. So part of the group was here in Turin, part of the group connected online. We aimed to give participants the possibility to be coached and assessed on their skills related to conciliation mediation. So participants, we divided into smaller groups of 6, and each group was actually guided by a coach, by a coach and assessor who was actually an experienced mediator. And in this process, they had the possibility to receive first coaching and then be assessed by these assessors based on the matrix of competences of the ITC ILO. After this process, that is actually that gave participants the possibility to also reflect upon the way in which they conduct mediation, how they use the area of skills typical of a mediator. We then organized a third phase of course that was actually the so-called training and facilitation. In these sessions, we aimed to offer participants the possibility to learn some facilitation methodology so we could reflect together on how to better plan a session, how can we equip, how can we help those participants become trainers, how can we actually provide them with the skills and the facilitation tools to make sure that they can actually somehow expand the impact of this course and become themselves trainers. So this is a bit what the course was about. The entire group was actually composed of 18 participants because, of course, the ratio of the course was one coach associated every six participants. And of course, the modality was hybrid. This was also due to organizational issues, but also to provide you with the chance to reflect upon the different ways in which we can organize trainings, in which we can deliver training. The assessment process itself is actually one of the training activities in conciliation mediation that the ITC ILO delivers, and it foresees three elements of evaluation. Let's say the first one is this assessment of role plays that participants actually took into Irene and online, where we actually have participants being coached and assessed on their skills as mediators. After that, participants are also requested to complete an exam, a test, and of course to draft a sort of final course essay. This was the content and the structure of the course from my side, but also on behalf of the International Training Center of the ILO. We are delighted, we are honored to be part of this initiative to support Ukraine mediators in this knowledge, skills, and reinforcement of knowledge and abilities in terms of mediation. And we really hope that this is just the stepping stone. This is just the beginning of a learning journey, of a longer learning journey together. Thank you very much.
Ірен, що приєдналися до вас. Дякую за інформацію, якою ви поділилися.
What else we have got in here? Let's have it from the lady from the audience here.
Можна мікрофон, будь ласка?
Ой, нарешті. Я з великою вдячністю хочу висловити, можливо, таку позицію більшості учасників цього тренінгу, і це вдячність і за організацію, і за те, наскільки методологічно виважена була програма, і за те, що вона була адаптована, прям відчувалося, що по ходу адаптувалася під той рівень професійної компетенції, яка була у учасників тренінгу. Ми отримали дійсно дуже велику кількість інсайтів. Ми мали можливість послухати і повчитися у дуже потужних тренерів. Ми мали можливість повчитися одна об одну. Не тільки одна об одну, а й один об одного і таке інше, якщо гендерну рівність зберігати. Ми вчилися один об одного, ми слухали дуже цікаві лекції, ми мали можливість попрацювати з дуже цікавими кейсами, які підготували наші українські колеги. ми відчули дуже цікавий такий інсайт, що держава разом з міжнародною організацією були дуже зацікавлені в тому, щоб саме медіація в трудових конфліктах мала потужний розвиток в Україні. Оце відчуття тої зацікавленості з боку держави і з боку міжнародної організації, воно дуже наклало таку, знаєте, відповідальність. Оцю відповідальність ми пронесли через весь тренінг. Ми були дуже, на мій погляд, такі залучені, повністю залучені в процес навчання. І зараз ця відповідальність залишається з нами, тому що нам потрібно навчити оцю достатню, не тільки критичну, а взагалі достатню, необхідну кількість медіаторів в Україні. Не нам, а нам і нашим людям, які повчаться у нас тепер, да? А можливо, будуть інші тренери, які теж будуть вчити, не тільки ми, а і ті, що в нас навчаться. Але навчаться саме от медіації в трудових конфліктах. І це дуже важливо, тому що дійсно, як сказала пані Катерина, людина на роботі проводить більше часу, ніж в будь-якому іншому середовищі, а крім сна, якщо вона спить дійсно 8 годин. Тобто 8 годин сна – це здоровий образ життя, да, і спосіб життя, і 8 годин на роботі. От все інше, воно по часу має меншу вагу. Відносини в трудових колективах, вони мають дуже високе значення для людини, для її життя, для її сприйняття світу і таке інше. Всі ці проблеми, які зараз от з'являються, і наші старі проблеми з оплатою праці, і наші нові проблеми пов'язані з реабілітацією і адаптацією після війни не тільки військових, але й людей, які були в тилу, і тепер їм треба адаптуватися до нової реальності взаємодії після війни також. Тобто ці зміни мають не локальний характер, а глобальний характер для України, повернення переселенців. Ну, тобто тут дуже багато всього. Воно накладає на нас, на всіх, дуже серйозну відповідальність, як на медіаторів, тому що саме медіація – це той процес, який, знаєте, у нас дуже багато всяких речей в Україні, ну і в світі також проходять конфлікти, коли люди стоять в конфлікті на позиціях, да, і це приводить до ескалації, до розриву відносин, до всякого такого. Медіація – це той процес, який дозволяє зберегти відносини, з позицій вийти в інтереси і змінити систему, змінити правила, створити свої правила. Медіація – це той процес, який дозволяє створити правила, по яких комфортно жити далі. І це не тільки правила між людьми, які в конфлікті тут і зараз. Це якщо це йде процес, знаєте, як зміни флуктуації в системі. Вони можуть змінити правила в країні. От зараз те, що ми спостерігаємо, залучення держави в питанні медіації, тим, що закон один за одним включає спочатку закон про медіацію, зараз потім закон про трудовий кодекс, в якому вже були індивідуальні трудові спори за участі медіатора. Зараз колективні трудові спори і так далі. Я не буду все перелічувати, але от це зацікавленість в цьому потоці, в його розвитку, в тому, що люди мають отримати оцей можливість усвідомлено змінювати правила і створювати правила, які дають їм можливість жити комфортно, нормально, у відповідності до своїх цінностей, до своїх переконань, до свого способу сприйняття світу. Ми всі хочемо жити в комфортній державі і, залишаючись в конфлікті на позиціях, це дуже важко буде зробити.
Дякую за ваш коментар. Можливо, є...
Я забула представитися, вибачте. Я Олена Сапашкова, я віце-президент Національної асоціації медіаторів. Ми цим піклуємося вже досить багато років. Взагалі-то медіатори, коли ще 30 років тому, які на свій кошт їхали вчитися за кордон і ініціювали медіацію тут, вони, я думаю, зараз дуже тішаться тим, що от врешті-решт їх зусилля, їх співпраця, їх натхнення призвели до того стану, в якому зараз ми знаходимося тут в Україні стосовно питань медіації і, зокрема, трудової медіації, колективних трудових спорах. Дякую дуже всім.
Дякую вам. Можливо, є ще запитання, коментарі, які ви можете поставити нашим спікерам. Позаду є рука, прошу передати мікрофон.
Доброго дня, мене звати Юлія Лихач.
Hello, my name is Yulia Likhach. I'm with the School of Public Administration, I'd like to thank the National Mediation Service for the work we have been doing with them. A couple of weeks ago, we opened a training program for the public servants of category A on social dialogue. It's also a part of the mediation. And mediation is a part of the social dialogue. We have been on it for a few years. We work with all sorts of public servants, and many of them do not have an idea of this. So it's going to take a consistent effort. You have gotten it started. We just need to carry on. A government is one of the biggest employers. It offers thousands of jobs. Thousands of legal entities work in the public sector. They offer various services, social, administrative.
Тому в цій площині я бачу таку, знаєте, активну співпрацю, можливо, з Вищою школою
So I can see a possible active cooperation with the public administration school, and public servants need to get a system-wide understanding of what is labor mediation or what is mediation at all. We can think of social mediation, which will be so popular post-war, but it's a good thing to be applied even right now. So I think many public servants will not make mediators, but still they will have some mediation skills at least. We can see a growing need for that. We have a mediation program going with us, but it's not consistent enough. So I'd like for all of you to collaborate with us. I appreciate the ILO. There is a course on social dialogue that you put together. You can see it in our platform. So it's been a good beginning, but there is more yet to be done consistently by all of us. So thank you for the job well done, and we welcome further cooperation. Anything from you? Let's have it. I'd like to thank you for these words and say that in the Odyssey in Torino, there are a few trainings, and one of them can be used as a preparatory training so that you would take part in the certification course. In the university, when you're a freshman, you complete a preparatory course just to make sure that you get the idea and all the verbiage and stuff. So we're going to adapt our course, and just as with the course on the social dialogue, I think we're going to do the same thing there. You might tie some credits to it, if that's what it takes. So we're going to make an introduction to mediation, an intro for everybody. And then based on that kickoff training, preparatory training, is going to be a good entry point to a certified course. Let me see if anybody from the online participants would like to make a point. I can see a few raised hands. So please tell us what you want to share.
Доброго дня, якщо це малося на увазі, якщо я мав це на увазі. Мене звати Іван Яцкевич.
Hello, I am Ivan Yatskyevich. I run a department in the university, the Department of Law. I haven't been one of the training participants, but I've got a question. If you don't mind, I can put the question. I think we need to use the principles of market operations and the balance between demand and supply. As reforms continue in the legislation and in socio-economic relations in the country, there are certain security issues around as well. there is a need to settle conflicts. That's such an important thing to do. Maybe it should be one of the items of the labor agreement, labor contract. So, how do you think we could raise employees' awareness of mediation as an option? Is that really necessary in the current setting, in the current situation where you see a certain demand and supply in the mediation sector, just to contribute to the better settlement of labor disputes?
Ви знаєте, ваші пропозиції абсолютно слушні. Дійсно, ви можете їх сформулювати.
Well, your ideas are sensible and you can write them down, and we're ready to get more detail on that. There's a working group that is drafting the labor code. The draft law on collective labor disputes is at the same time a book of the labor code on collective disputes. So we'll see which will be passed earlier, the draft law or the labor code. But your ideas are perfectly fine. There is still time to make them a part of the legislation, and what you're talking about might be envisioned in the labor code. So raising awareness. If somebody comes to get hired by you, you can let them know about mediation as an option. So all of those are sensible points. We just need to work on that further, and then we'll see if it's going to become a part of legislation.
Я прям категорично підтримую те, що було щойно сказано.
I'm fully supportive of what has been said.
Ну, реально, там в буремних нульових роках, коли ще не було жодного законодавства.
In early 2000s, we didn't have any laws on that, so we as an organization would try and make sure that all contracts and agreements carry a mediation item.
Пунктом, куди звертаються дві сторони у випадку, якщо є певний конфлікт.
In case of a conflict, the parties should consider mediation.
Розписували, що це таке.
We would explain what it's all about.
Наших партнерів і
So our partners are well aware of that, and sub-grantees as well.
Тому така м'яка сила,
So it's like a soft force which allows you to get the idea, and it works a lot better than hardline regulation. Like you gotta make everybody aware, you gotta make them follow that pathway. So what you're saying really makes sense. I think it is something worth discussing. Let's have it from Alexander. Hello, dear colleagues. I'm happy to see my friends and colleagues. Thanks to the National Mediation and Conciliation Service, you have been doing a lot to enable legislation reforms to settle the labor disputes and promote mediation, pre-trial settlement options. I'd like to thank Serhii representing ILO office. Thanks to the REC ILO experts, I appreciate the projects you have been doing to promote mediation and the best practices in the sector. It's not the only event happening this week addressing mediation as a way of resolving conflicts. On behalf of the trade unions, I'd like to thank you for placing such a strong focus on this. I'd like to reflect on what I have heard so far today. And I'm gonna let you know why trade unions are not so much in favor of practicing mediation in every case. So we believe that mediation is not good in each particular case when it comes to individual labor disputes. So if you think of individual disputes in this country, sometimes those disputes are based on interests, so they might happen between an employee and an employer, and it's about the future work conditions or something like that. And there might be disputes about rights. So those disputes emerge if an employer fails to do what they should under the labor law. So those disputes happen because of the faulty judicial system where disputes have to be handled mandatorily. It takes too long to do it and so on. If there are unpaid wages and salaries, then mediators might think of it as an interesting thing where they could do mediation to get a handle on the dispute. But trade unions think of it differently. We believe that in that case, the government system has to do its part of the job, making employers do what they are supposed to do vis-a-vis employees under the labor law. Mediation can be used in other cases. It's about the disputes based on rights. Trade unions believe that all of the interests can be formulated based on the interests of trade unions using the right for association. So we fully support the idea of using mediation procedure to settle collective labor disputes related to work conditions, social and labor relations. So we fully support the mediation procedures in those cases, and that should be envisioned by the legislation in this country. Thank you. I wish you success at these events and more that are coming, and hope there's going to be effective initiatives and effective mediators that are going to be produced by these projects. Okay, thank you, Alexander. We have seen one more hand among the online participants. Hello, I am Diana Prochenko. I teach in Kyiv Mahila Academy in the Department of Law. Through the National Association of Mediators, you may have known me because I used to be in charge of that previously. I think today an important event is happening. 2020 and 2022, the association
розроблення стратегічного бачення
sought to develop a
для
strategic vision
медіацію справді
to enable mediation in this country. It should become a real deal.
в цій сфері це інтеграція медіації в систему
And we would think of integrating mediation with the dispute resolution practices in the country.
результат теж взаємодії
This event is actually a product of the interaction between government agents and expert community, and that is so important. We're moving in the right way, and I'm delighted to see it happen.
Хочу сказати, що ось в цьому системному баченні для того, щоб справді медіація була впроваджена і вона давала
In order to make the mediation a real deal,
що не всі спори вони
we gotta understand that not all disputes can be resolved effectively through mediation only.
різницю між спорами про право
There's a difference between disputes based on rights and interests. It's not the same story. And that's where there's a need for a consistent view, allowing you to see which option is better in which case.
Зараз також ось важливо тримати ті процеси і інші, які відбуваються в державі, і окрім фантастично важливого.
So there is a need to monitor whatever is going on in the country. Yes, we need to keep training the labor mediators. We gotta make a register of those. And also, we have to think of other projects that work towards achieving the same objective. The national agency and civil service are on it as well. A government is the largest employer in this country, and we need to think of effective consensus-based procedures. In recent years, there has been a good cooperation going on between the national agency and the OECD. It's about conflict management inside organizations, especially if you think of public service. Personnel or staff is an entire system with social ties in it, and should there be a conflict in it, it should not be seen as a one-off phenomenon. It is something that suggests that there are certain system failures inside the organization. So if you think of managing conflicts in organizations of any kind, it may be public administration bodies or for-profit organizations. So conflict management is relevant to all of them. And that's where you can find some space for mediation and other techniques. Staff should be able to have a right perception of the mediation in a particular case, in a particular conflict or dispute.
Тобто їх особисто, дуже важливо, наскільки колективи, в принципі, знайомі з консенсусними підходами.
But in order to have the right perception, they need to know about that. They need to have the right idea. And that will allow them to see a conflict in a different way. They will see it as an opportunity. We work with the OSCE and the civil service. Trying to think of better conflict management inside organizations. There should be a conflict resolution officer or something like that, which is a part of the internal corporate culture. And these guys should be interested in efficient operations of the personnel of an organization. It is somebody who's got knowledge, has been trained to do it. If the situation allows to keep the neutral positions, then this guy may come into play. If the in-house mediator cannot do the mediation for these parties, then they would think of other options. At least this guy can think of modifying the culture inside the organization at least people would think of consensus-based practices, training will have to be done. And then they will do the system-wide analysis to see why conflicts happen. What's wrong inside an organization that leads to a conflict? So if there's a particular conflict involving particular people, you continue on, you analyze the root causes of the conflict, and then you think of possible changes just to make sure that this conflict would never repeat itself in future. So in that case, you get a good blending of conflict management and change management. Organizations experience reforms, and any changes inside an organization may potentially lead to a conflict because changes might lead to jarring positions among various groups of participants. So we have to consider both of these things for the sake of a better outcome. In order for an idea to become a real deal, you have to have trained experts to do it. So while training the labor mediators, you have to consider the fact that mediators should not just be able to do the mediation. They need to have a system-wide view of a conflict inside an organization. They need to be able to spot the symptoms, to identify certain changes this organization might be needing. So if need be, I'll be glad to share the context. There's an OSCE conflict management handbook for the civil service. There are certain tools described in it. They're not just good for the civil service, they are good for the staff of any organizations. You get checklists in there and some advice and algorithms that are involved in that. Thank you for your ongoing cooperation, your project, and Godspeed to you in your further endeavors. Thank you. There is something else from the audience. Let's have it.
Колеги, я хочу підхопити і проінформувати всіх зацікавлених, тих, хто надихається і бажає долучитися до процесу.
I'd like to make a point for those that feel like becoming a part of this process. I am the first deputy chair of the National Mediation and Conciliation Service, Alona Zapara. In our service, there is a very advanced website. There is a Facebook page as well. If you sign up for it, you will be getting updates every day on our initiatives and progress. And that's how you're going to learn more about becoming a part of the process of developing labor mediation. If you're interested in this, or if you're a mediator already, and you feel like sharing your knowledge, like Diana, she told us about the resources and sources that might be valuable to us, so you're welcome to use them. And please check with us, check with our chapters in the regions. You can find the contact info on our website. Please let us know about your interest in labor mediation. Let us know that you would like to take a training course that will be there towards the end of this year and next year. Just let us know about that. Let us know you're there. Follow the updates and join our community. We are interested in you. We promote the values of social dialogue. We're interested in collaborating with social partners. We would like to learn more and would like to allow you to learn more, to augment your knowledge with the help of ILO. We can share the standards, we can make them better. A professional mediator community in this country is powerful and strong and harmonious. It can serve the society and That's what we're
Дякую
going
вам.
to
На
be
цьому
on.
будемо завершувати під сигнал
Thank you.
повітряної тривоги. Нагадаю, що ми говорили
So,
про сертифікаційний курс із трудової
we spoke
медіації,
about the
результати
certified
більш
course on labor
конструктивні. Я
mediation, the
сподіваюся, що
results
цей
and
проект
outlooks.
допоможе
Hopefully, this
не тільки
project
вирішенню
will
трудових
help
конфліктів, а й
address
їхньому
labor
попередженню.
conflicts and that
Медіа-центр
it will
України
help
продовжить
prevent them
роботу о
too.
12-й
The
годині.
Media Center
Поговоримо
will
про
continue
останню
working at
масовану
12.
ворожу атаку в ніч на
We're
20
going to
червня
discuss
і
the
наслідки.
recent attacks and their consequences. Stay with us.